The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today we are presenting a webinar on the ShoreCall products for extending in-building cellular signals. And I have two presenters today, Zach from Alliance and Michael from ShoreCall. Zach's going to do a really short introduction to Alliance and just talk about what we do. And then Michael's going to give us a good presentation on the ShoreCall product and how it works. Throughout this webinar, everyone's going to be on mute except for us. However, if you want to ask a question, you're very welcome to submit it through the GoToWebinar console. And of course, if you have any questions after, you can always email me and I can direct you to the right person or directly to Zach or Michael. And like I mentioned, or I don't know if I did mention, but we are recording this webinar. So after the webinar is finished, it'll take a little time, but I'll have it up online on YouTube. So anybody you work with can watch it, or anyone else you know of, and we'll be sending you a link so that you can just figure out where it is. And if you do want a copy of the PowerPoint, just send us an email. So without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Zach, and thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zach Aljundi. I'm in the technical sales department here at Alliance Corporation, and I'd like to welcome you to the webinar we're presenting today, an inexpensive alternative for in-building cellular signal boosting. Just before I hand over the reins to Mike Copeland of ShoreCall, I'd just like to take a minute to provide you with a quick overview of Alliance Corporation. We're a leading distributor.
All right, technical difficulties here.
We're a leading distributor of infrastructure products. We offer supply chain solutions focused only on wireless. World-class product lines. We carry an extensive inventory. We have industry experts on staff for any of your questions. And we also provide technical support and training. We have warehouse facilities across North America and Central and Latin America. The solutions we provide are basically microwave broadband backhaul, in-building DAS, outdoor DAS, supply chain infrastructure, and fiber. And I'll get into those in a couple of slides. Our primary clients include carriers, contractors, integrators, and OEMs. Regarding our infrastructure solutions, we offer extensive fiber, coax, and antenna solutions, as well as indoor and outdoor DAS solutions. Not only do we offer the best products available on the market, we're also experts in PIM, and that includes cable assemblies and test gear, as well as training, fiber, and that basically is summed up as raw fiber, assemblies, connectors, custom solutions, etc. In-building DAS, outdoor DAS, as I mentioned, and supply chain. I'm talking product procurement, kitting, logistics, project planning, etc. Now that basically concludes the portion on the intro of Alliance. I think it's a good time now to take a look at the ShoreCall solution and where it fits within the marketplace. Basically, on one end of the spectrum, you have the consumer-grade products made by manufacturers such as Wolfson and YX, and these are basically consumer residential type solutions, typically for. Then on the far end of the spectrum, you have the carrier-grade solutions made by Andrew, CSI, and Solid, to mention a few. That would be for large corporate offices, stadiums, things of that nature. So cell phone mate ShoreCall has a very nice fit in between, the large and the small type applications. Large enterprises can use this kind of solution, SOHO residential applications. Also, ShoreCall does make solutions for in-vehicle cellular reception. Basically, think of the ShoreCall solution as fitting in the 2,000 to 80,000 square foot arenas. At this stage, I'd like to pass the presentation over to Michael Copeland from ShoreCall.
Okay, thanks, Zach.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate that. So again, as Zach said, my name is Michael Copeland. I'm the inside sales manager here at ShoreCall. And ShoreCall is a manufacturer of signal boosters We have a growing reputation of providing economical and dependable and powerful solutions for homes, small and mid-sized buildings, as well as vehicles, M2M solutions, and most areas where cellular boosting is needed. We manufacture boosters that cover all 2G, 3G, and 4G frequencies, including the newly released LTE bands in Canada. So as we're all aware, cell phones are a growing part of the everyday life. They're becoming an integral part of the environment and the infrastructure. These are some recent facts from the CWTA on cell phone usage. As you can see, cell phones are definitely becoming part of everyone's everyday life. 74 out of every 100 Canadian citizens uses a mobile device. We can see that the wireless revenue in Canada totaled $19.1 billion in 2011. And so obviously the need is there. Many, many people are using cell phones for everything from personal calls, personal needs, to business needs, day-to-day requirements, safety, and so on and so forth. The problem is unreliable coverage. Unfortunately, cell coverage is not everywhere you go. There's many reasons for this. Lack of towers, poorly aligned towers, many obstructions, both natural and man-made, hills, mountains, trees, forests, being very remote. Cell towers are expensive to put in, and the carriers don't necessarily install these in every rural area where there isn't a lot of population. And so you might have very remote areas where there's no cell coverage. On the opposite end, in large, densely populated areas, there might be too many people to be able to utilize the cell phone coverage and use the towers. And so although many people are using cell phones, not everybody has reliable service and reliable coverage everywhere they go. Another part of this too, obviously, is a lot of the construction materials, concrete buildings, wire mesh, sheet metal, insulation, reflective glass. Tint on windows can cause cellular signals to not penetrate through a building. Even densely populated areas in general, people absorb cell signal, and so there's a lot of different reasons why all these people using cell phones have a need to have better coverage and better cellular ability. Many people are affected by this, from vehicle, mobile applications, traveling salesmen, people out there, truck drivers, public safety workers, cottage and homeowners. There's many cottages there in Canada that are in nice, rural, remote, beautiful country. The downside is there's no carrier tower nearby, or the cell coverage is very weak. We recently did a marketing campaign on the website Cottage Life, and we're averaging over 100 hits a week from potential customers interested in cell boosters and cell solutions for their cottages. So there's a huge growing need for cell boosters in the cottage and home industries. Commercial buildings. As we spoke, a lot of these materials are preventing cell signals from penetrating into the buildings. Also very densely populated areas. We have a lot of, we've shown really strong growth in sales in the big metropolitan areas. Toronto, for instance. We've done some jobs in some hotels there in Toronto, some commercial buildings. You walk around outside and you get a good cell signal, but when you go in the building, you lose that cell signal. And again, like we said, the materials used, just overall lack of coverage, and these people have a need. They're out there needing their cell phones to work, but they're in environments where they don't. And people don't want to necessarily have to be walking outside to make phone calls. There's a lot of working parents these days. They don't want to have to be worried about the daycare or the school getting a hold of them because their cell phone doesn't work. So there's a lot of growing need for cell phone coverage. Another application is machine-to-machine. These are things like ATM machines, POS systems, any kind of cellular remote credit card processing, digital billboards. a lot of things are using cellular transmission now to get data in and out. But again, you're in the same dilemma as your cell phone. You've got this piece of equipment in a building, and it's a concrete building, and there's no cell service getting in. So we're able to hook up a booster to the wireless modem, take that signal, increase the strength of it, and get it outside the building so it can communicate back and forth to the carriers. This even goes for wireless video. If you have, basically anything that's using cellular connectivity, we can boost that signal. So, a lot of alarm systems these days, closed circuit TV, as long as there's a availability for cellular transmission, we can boost that signal and allow you to be able to use that cellular device even in an environment where the cellular service is not optimal. And lastly, and this is very big in Canada, is the oil, timber, and mining industries. Again, these can be in very remote locations where maybe there's minimal cell phone coverage, but it's very lackluster. It's very light. Maybe you have to go, to the highest point on the job site there to be able to use your cell phone. And so we can, again, take that signal and amplify it, boost it, and allow for more people to be able to have phones and be able to rely on their phones. In the mining industry, safety is a big priority. Well, when you're underground, cell phones aren't working down there. We've sold our solution into mines, and people have now been able to use cell phones deep within the earth while they're doing mining jobs for safety and communication, and a lot of reliance on this. So as you can see, there's a lot of industries that rely on cellular frequencies and cell phones that have a need for boosting, and that's where we all come in here. As a solutions provider or a value-added reseller or an installer, you're working with these people already. You're talking to them for one reason or another. You're doing another job for them. You're putting a Wi-Fi system in, maybe putting desk phones in, running cable for an electrical job. You're having regular day-to-day contact with these people that potentially have a need, and it's a pretty easy sell. You're on the job, or you're working with the customer on a solution, and it's an easy question, right? How's your cell phone coverage? Better yet, you're out on the scene, take a look at your cell phone, 1 or 2 bars. You can solve that problem for these people at a very low cost and a very easy alternative that many people might not even be aware of an option being out there. So, again, I can't stress enough, when you're out talking with these people and you're adding to them another solution, this is another tool for your toolbox. Even for the guys doing DAS and the higher-end cellular. DAS is a good alternative, but it's not necessarily the right alternative for everybody. And so, again, this gives you something else to offer these folks. There are other solutions currently available. Like I mentioned, the DAS, the distributed antenna systems. These are a great option, but again, they're not necessarily the right fit for everybody. These are great for large areas, arenas, stadiums, shopping malls, things of that nature. But, I would say conservatively, 6 out of every 10 potential DAS customers you may work with, it might not be in their budget to go with a DAS system. They might not have the time to do a DAS system. Same thing applies to small cells. Small cells are becoming more and more something that the carriers are pushing, but the downside is they still require backhaul to the main system. So again, there's a lot of high cost involved, construction, time. Sometimes it's just too great of a distance. We've talked about the remote areas, the cottage areas. In Canada, even a small cell, if it's not a densely populated area, it might not be cost effective for either the carrier to put a tower out there or for the users to use a DAS system or a small cell. Again, that's where we come in. Our BDAs and signal boosters are a fraction of the cost. On the DAS system, on average, you're paying anywhere from $1.50 to $3 per square foot of cellular coverage. With our solution, you're looking at about 15 to 20 cents per square foot. So you can see the cost savings is immense there. And, for the average business, the average commercial space out there, they're not looking to cover tens of thousands of square feet. or hundreds of thousands of square feet per se. They might just have a 60,000 square foot warehouse or a 50,000 square foot office space. Or, it might even be that they just want one area covered. You might have a hotel that wants the lobby covered. Or you might have a situation where there's a parking garage or other underground places where they just want coverage in a certain area. The alternatives are not really efficient for this, whereas our system can come in and be more customizable and more fitted to the individual need. Time is crucial as well. Again, with the DAS system, small cells, some of the other alternatives, it is a longer time to install these, potentially have to get approval, and they can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to 18 months depending on the size of the job. With our system, there's no carrier approval required. It is not a carrier-specific product, and so the installation can take a matter of weeks, even less than a week in a lot of situations. So we recognize the market for DAS, and we see that there's definitely a high demand and a high use. But even if you're a DAS installer, a DAS reseller, a VAR for DAS systems, there's probably some of your deals that you're missing out on because it's just not quite the right fit for those people. And again, that's where we come in. We want you to have an alternative to offer these people so that you can still get the deal, so that we can still take care of the customer and see a profit. So before I get into too much the various options, I kind of want to go over how the product works. It's a very basic broadband solution. So like I stated earlier, we're not carrier specific. So we're handling all of the bands, the PCS, the cellular, the AWS, as well as the LTE that's being introduced into Canada now as well. We basically take the outside signal, so we do need some sort of an outside signal to be able to work with, and we can work with a -90 to -110 signal. That's a workable signal for us. We capture that signal with an outside exterior broadcast antenna. We bring that signal into the booster via cable. We use a 400 cable. We recommend a 400 cable, minimal dB loss there. So we bring that signal into the booster, and then the booster does its thing. It takes the signals, depending on the booster you use. It's going to boost the 2G or 3G or 4G, PCS, cellular, so on and so forth. It's going to boost that signal and then push it back out to broadcast antennas. So you'll have dome antennas or panel antennas positioned throughout the building that are going to take that signal that's been boosted by the amplifier and push it back out through those signals. They also receive the uplink back. So those antennas are two-way antennas handling both the uplink, or this information going out, and the downlink, the information coming in. They can handle those, and they can, some of our products, we handle anywhere from 4 to 10 simultaneous callers to 100 plus on some of our linear systems. So again, the right solution for the right need. We've got a lot of the areas covered, and that's where I want to go into now. So like mentioned earlier, the M2M industry is a growing industry. We're seeing a lot of growth here as the electronics become more and more dominant and used throughout the world and the country. Everything from video billboards on top of gas pumps, ATM machines, vending machines that take credit cards. You got to pay $2.50 for a soda at your local amusement park now, and they'll gladly take your credit card. The issue is that signal from that little modem inside of there might not be strong enough to actually be able to talk back to the business owner or to the network to process the information. So that's where our M2M boosters come in. You'll see throughout here, I mentioned the various gains that each booster line offers. This is basically how much power, how much of a kick these boosters are going to give. So the higher the kick, the higher the dB gain, the more footage that you'll be able to cover with the booster. So for instance, in an M2M, you don't need a lot of extra kick. You're basically just trying to get that signal from that modem or from that device pushed out into the air so that the carriers, the towers and whatnot can catch it. So Our M2M direct connect boosters have a 19 dB gain. We offer a dual band for this, which means we're doing 2G and 3G. The carriers are not, it's not carrier specific in the 2G and 3G. So all the carriers are using 2G and 3G for phone calls and for basic data. And again, like I said, it's not carrier specific. So a lot of the M2M solutions out there are just using 2G, 3G data because they don't need high speed necessarily. And 2G, 3G is much more common and covered all throughout the U.S. and Canada, whereas 4G may have spotty coverage depending on what the carriers have put in place to support the 4G. So our M2M solution is a dual band 2G, 3G solution. We also have the mobile applications. These range anywhere from a 30 to a 45 dB gain. So this can go in a small car, a little two-door passenger vehicle for the salespeople, the people out traveling the roads and need reliable cell coverage, but travel in and out of strong coverage areas. All the way up to 40 and 45 dB gain, so we can cover buses, RVs, larger vehicles, big rigs, things of that nature. Allows for that stronger signal, can cover more of the vehicle. If you have a bus or anything like that and you have multiple potential users, it can handle people using the booster and multiple people making phone calls. And it's basic, basic installation. You've got your antenna, your booster, and an antenna in the vehicle transmitting the signal back out and capturing that signal. And these are dual band as well. We do see that there's a growing need for 4G data, but again, it's not available everywhere. And in a lot of mobile solutions, you're not really looking for high-speed data transmission as much as you're making sure that you can make a good phone call and you've got good phone clarity. So right now we are offering a dual-band 2G, 3G solution for all size vehicles, as well as vessels and boats. Many boats out there, there's a lot of luxury yachts and just general boaters that would like to be able to use their cell phone while they're out on the lake or out at sea. Some of these higher-end yachts, they're streaming music and video and things of that nature. Our mobile boosters will work for that as well. We're actually working with a large U.S. distributor now on a marine exclusive deal, and so there's a very large market in the marine world as well for mobile boosting and mobile amplification. From our M2M and our mobile boosters, we get into home boosters, and these cover anything from 600 to 3,000 meters. So again, we want to make sure we have the right solution for as many customers as possible. These are anywhere from a 55 to a 65 dB max gain. The higher the dB gain, the more area you're going to be able to cover. And we offer a variety of solutions. Dual band is good for the cost-conscious people or homeowners. If you're using Wi-Fi, you don't need a 4G booster because you're using your Wi-Fi for your data. Most homeowners, they just want to make sure they've got a good phone call, and they've got good phone clarity when they're on the phone, and they want to make sure they're not getting dropped calls. So a dual band solution is a very inexpensive solution for those folks. If you do have people that want a 4G boosting in their home, we do have a tri-band solution. The advantage of this is the 2G, 3G, again, not carrier specific, and then you can add the 4G for the primary carrier. So if they're using AWS for their 4G, you can buy a tri-band solution that has the 2G, 3G, and then has the AWS 4G. So the primary users in the home will have boosting available for their 4G, and if they have company over, they're not going to be able to utilize the 4G if they're not using AWS, but they'll still get the benefit of the booster with the 2G and 3G. So even the company and the in-laws come over, they can still make phone calls and have good phone clarity and quality because you have a booster in place. For those wanting to make sure that everybody that comes by is covered, we have a 5-band solution. So this has incorporated into it the 2G and the 3G and the 4G AWS and LTE. So you're not going to limit anybody from getting the maximum benefits of a booster being in the home. The 5-band solution has become very popular with affluent homeowners. It covers up to 3,000 meters, covers all the frequencies, and it's just a nice little unit for those affluent homeowners that have these nice homes and they want to make sure that not only their phones work, but their guests' phones work. So again, just to reiterate, we've got a solution for almost every environment. What's nice about these boosters too, you'll see, is the dials on here. This allows for attenuation. You could be in a situation where the signal's a little bit too hot coming in. You could be close to a tower and outside you have a great signal, but the building material is causing the signal to diminish. And the attenuation allows you to adjust that so that you can fit it right for the home, for the application. And again too, just because it's a 55 max dB, maybe you're only trying to cover 300 meters, 400 meters, maybe a room or two is all that's needed. So you can dial these down to really fine-tune them for optimal performance and to get the coverage you need for the job you're trying to work on and the solution you're providing. And then from there, we get into our larger commercial boosters. The benefit of our commercial boosters is that they are highly linear. They're a linear product. What this means is the signal is very clean. It's filtered very well so that you get maximum coverage area. You can get coverage up to 25,000 meters, 80,000 square feet of coverage from these units, as well as handle multiple callers, 100 plus simultaneous callers per frequency. And this is an industry exclusive. No other boosters out there in this arena offer a linear booster. So we've got, we really have a good place in the market for those commercial buildings that are trying to solve a problem, but don't have that budget for a DAS, don't have that budget for a small cell. You can use one of our boosters and it'll do a great job there. We do offer both the dual band, 2G and 3G. Again, the business owner doesn't necessarily want the employees streaming Netflix all day. They don't really care how good their movies are when they're on lunch, but they do want to make sure that they can rely on their cell phone. The dual band is a very low-cost option there and will really solve that problem and make everybody happy. And then, again, we do have the 5-band solution for the larger commercial areas for those people that do want to make sure they've got everything covered, your PCS, your cellular, your LTE, your AWS. And like I said earlier, we've been using the LTE here in the States, and we've already built these boosters and been using them for close to 2 years now. And now that Canada has the LTE band being auctioned off and being introduced into the industry, we've got you covered there. So you can install this now, and even if LTE is not yet available in that area, they're ready for it. So if people start using LTE phones in that building or in that home, they've already got it solved. They don't need to change out the booster. They don't need to get something else because the LTE is now available in their area. With these products, we've seen a 50% growth in the commercial industry over the last 3 years. Every year we've shown 50% growth in the commercial boosters. So both the need and the knowledge of these products is growing, and as that continues to grow, so do the sales and the installation of these units. Another nice feature with our commercial products is the individual ability to attenuate both the uplink and the downlink. You really want to dial it in. When you're dealing with multiple carriers, you could have a situation where you have one tower very close to you and another tower farther away. So you might need to be able to, your downlink's coming in too hot from one tower. You want to be able to dial that back a little bit, but for another, it's weak, and so you need to really maximize that. And it's vice versa for the uplink as well. The biggest concern that the carriers do have is too strong of an uplink. And so because of our boosters having the attenuation, you can address that and ensure that you don't cause interference with the towers and keep the carriers happy. You can adjust the uplink down on all of our boosters up to 32 dB. So you can really dial it back. You know, the uplink does not need to be near as strong as the downlink. You just need to be able to spit that signal out just enough for the tower to capture it and bring it in. So you can really dial that back, get the product working well, and keep the carriers happy at the same time because you're not sending too much traffic up to their tower or too strong of a signal up. In general, you know, all of our products, some of the other engineering and design features, we use a compartmentalized design in all of our products. What this does is it helps pull the heat away from the electronics as well as eliminate noise and interference amongst the electronics to allow for better performance, more reliable performance, and just greater longevity of the product performing and working. We use aluminum alloys in all of our units. We don't use any plastic parts, plastic casing. There's no plastics with our product. Again, this helps with the heat dissipation, this helps with the performance, and it just really ensures that when you tell somebody I'm going to put a solution in that's going to cover 25,000 meters, that it's going to do that for you. You know, along with the boosters, there's other basic components that are used. You know, your outside donor antennas, and there's different options there depending on what you're trying to accomplish, what you need to accomplish. We've got basic Omni outdoor antenna. This is a nice antenna. If you've got a good signal coming in from all the carriers, it'll just capture the signal in all directions, bring it into the booster, and the booster will do its thing, boost that signal, and push it out and really light that building up. If you have a situation where maybe a tower is a bit away and you're working with a weaker signal, say a 100, a 105, we've got Yagi directional antennas as well. So you can use these, you can point them at the towers, get an 11 dB gain, and bring those in and really get a hot signal coming into the booster for it to do its job and really light that building up. Indoor antennas, we've got different options there as well. We've got dome antennas. They just go right to the ceiling. They cover anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. You know, again, just nothing to it. It just takes that signal and lights up the building and emits a nice strong signal for everybody to be able to use. And we have panel antennas as well. These are nice because they do have a higher dB gain. You know, maybe you're in a warehouse with a really high ceiling and it's not ideal to put a dome up on there. Maybe you have a long hallway. Maybe you're doing a hospital job or a school job where you've got a hallway that you want to provide coverage in. You can put the panel antennas at the end, and it'll shoot a signal down the hall, but it'll also penetrate into the rooms. So it's another good alternative for getting optimal signal boosting. Other basic components, you know, if you're using multiple indoor antennas, we've got splitters, two-way, three-way, four-way. You know, again, you can use multiple antennas with our boosters, and especially on the commercial boosters. You know, with the 80 dB gain on these, you can use anywhere from 8 to 12. I've even worked with some installers that have used 16 antennas with a booster. So, you know, you do an apartment complex and you want to run antennas into multiple homes or multiple apartments. You know, you can use the splitters to be able to really maximize that system, use as many antennas as you need, and really make sure you've got coverage everywhere that you're looking to get. And lastly, cables. You know, like I said, we use a 400 cable. We recommend a 400 cable. It does make sure that there's minimal dB loss, and it's also a shielded cable to help with any interference. And, you know, it's important to make sure that you're, you know, using a good cable to minimize the loss, because the better the signal coming into the booster is, you know, the better it's going to be able to perform, the better it's going to be able to boost, and just really take care of that customer for you. You know, that's really, we can't stress enough that, you know, we've got a solution for most situations. No matter how big or small, we can make our systems fit in there. You can use multiple systems. So even if you have more than 25,000 square meters of coverage, you can use multiple systems. We've done hospital jobs where people have put 4, 5, 6 boosters in a building to really make sure it's covered. You know, campuses, a lot of these high-tech firms have large campuses. Same thing. They can be multiple boosters in a building, multiple boosters in the same area. So you're not just limited to one booster, and if the building's too big, then you're out of luck. You can have multiple boosters, and it's a proven installation. People have done it, and it's worked great. So to kind of give you an idea, this is just a kind of a rough sketch of a solution. I apologize, it might be a little hard to see, but our boosters, the black box there kind of in the middle, we've got our signal coming in from outside, and we're going into some splitters, and then going into some dome antennas, and it's going to light that building up really well. In this situation, we're using 4 indoor antennas, and it's going to give optimal performance and optimal coverage for this whole building area. So, that's the basic components, the basic available products. It's been a growing industry. We've seen a lot of growth, and we've worked with some other folks in Canada, and they've seen substantial growth. Because the education is growing, we're really doing a lot of marketing to try to educate end users that there's an option out there. And part of that is definitely, we're seeing a turn in that. We're seeing the results of that by the added inquiries and the added need for this. And so we want to, I just want to stress that it's been a very lucrative industry, and the potential is growing more and more every day as people realize that there's something out there. People, for many years, people thought, oh, I have a poor carrier. It's my carrier. My carrier's horrible. My phone doesn't work. Many, many times it has nothing to do with the carrier. It has a lot to do with the environment, the building, the obstruction, so on and so forth. And so not only for those customers, but for the carriers as well, to keep the customers happy, they need a solution. And that's where, we hope you recognize our product is being able to fit that need and fill that void and take care of these customers and be able to offer them something so that they can use their phones and be happy with what they're doing and not have any buyer's remorse as well, because the cost versus the solution is very comparable, and people see that, and a lot of times people are shocked at how inexpensive it can be to solve the problem. So what's to come? As the manufacturer, we're working on some inline boosters. These come in handy in a commercial space. We urge you to not have really long cable runs. 100 foot, after you get longer than 100 feet of cable, you start to get some substantial dB loss. The more loss you get, the less dB you get coming into the booster, the harder it is for it to really do its job and really provide the maximum coverage. So we've got inline boosters to be able to go in line, give that signal a little bit of kick before it goes out. Same thing applies to a long cable run going to a broadcast antenna. Maybe you have a really long building, a really long warehouse, and the place to put the booster is not optimal. It's not in the center of the building. So you've got 200 feet to the end of your cable run to the farthest antenna, and you want to make sure that one's got coverage. So we're going to be releasing some inline boosters as well as our regular boosters to be able to just get an extra kick to cover greater distances. Something else that's coming out that we're very excited about, very eager to release, and this is probably going to be Q3, is a remote monitoring application. So this will basically be a remote device that hooks up to the existing booster and allows you to monitor the uplink and downlink. It also allows you to watch it if there's oscillation, if there's shutdown, and not only monitor but also adjust remotely. So this can come in really handy. You go out, you do a job, you put a solution in place, and you notice all of a sudden that 2 weeks later the system's oscillating. One of the bands is shut down. Maybe a tower was adjusted nearby. Maybe there was construction of a new tower. Now all of a sudden the tower that was 1.5 miles away is 500 yards away, and they've got too strong of a signal. the unit can't handle this signal being so strong because it was set for a weaker signal. System oscillates. Rather than spending the cost and the time involved to drive all the way back out there to flip a couple of dip switches, you can log on, you can go on your computer, notice the bands that are having a problem and adjust them remotely, fix the problem in the matter of minutes instead of days, and everybody's happy, carrier, end user, so on and so forth. With this remote monitoring, we see a great opportunity for reoccurring revenue. You can add this to your job, to your installation, and offer a monthly fee to monitor the system for the customer. This will help save, this will help save on any travel expenses if you do have to go back out there. So there's definitely the possibility of ongoing money, of reoccurring revenue by signing these customers up to a remote monitoring contract. So there's a lot of potential, not only just keeping the customer happy, being able to service the customer when needed, but also to have that reoccurring revenue. Reoccurring revenue is a great thing, and for those of you that have been able to capitalize on it, I'm sure it's something that you enjoy. So we're really excited to be able to offer this remote monitoring device, and it just brings us one step closer to being a very viable DAS alternative. And it also will help keep the carriers happy. If they know if the uplink gets too strong and you're causing interference, it's not going to be 2 days before somebody can come out and flip a dip switch. It can be a matter of minutes. So there's so many benefits to this remote monitoring application, and we really see it just being a wonderful add-on to the existing product and just really being another great tool to be able to sell this to the customers. Also, LTE options. Like we spoke, we recognize that the LTE bands have been auctioned off in Canada, and as the carriers get more towers and things in place, LTE is going to be used more and more. It's going to be a little different here in the U.S. Verizon owns one block, AT&T owns a different block, so we can be carrier specific for the 4G, for the LTE. In Canada, it's not the same. The blocks are all over the place. I don't know if anybody on the call has seen, but there's no true rhyme or reason to which carrier owns which block and which 700 band, upper or lower. So we're going to offer an all-in-one. We have the 5 band now, but we want to offer kind of something in the middle, something more cost-effective, where we take the upper and the lower, incorporate it into one, and so for more for that homeowner industry, you can have your 2G, 3G, and then your 700 4G specific booster. So just another option, another price point. Again, it just all goes back to having the right solution for the customer to make them happy, but also to prevent any kind of buyer's remorse or cause them to feel like they spent more money than they really needed to. And lastly, it's important to let everybody know that all of our boosters are IC certified, including our commercial boosters. One thing I meant to add on the last slide there, the 80 dB commercial boosters, it's the only dB available in Canada. Our competition is no longer doing 80 dB because of new regulations set forth in the U.S. by the FCC. Our competition is basically forcing Canada to have to abide by the same rules that the U.S. is with the boosters. And what comes with that is limited dB gain. Here in the States, we're now limited to a max 72 as opposed to 80. And we're also required to lower the power of our boosters here in the U.S. from 3 watts to 1 watt. Whereas in Canada, we can still use the 3 watt 80 dB. And so we are going to continue to offer that to Canada to make sure you've got a very good, viable commercial solution. Whereas our competition basically doesn't feel the need to offer both product lines anymore, and so Canada is going to be actually already forced to not have these stronger options available for the larger jobs. So we also see that as being a good advantage when offering and selling our product. We've gotten our 5-band booster IC certified, so all the product is approved by the IC, can be used in Canada, dual band, tri-band, 5-band. We've got it all covered there for you in Canada. One of my last points here, my and more, without going into too much detail, I do want to let you know that we are exploring other frequencies, other wireless bands, and looking to incorporate those in as well in the near future. You know, cellular's great, cellular's growing, but obviously there are other wireless frequencies out there being used for other applications, and there's a need for boosting those just as much as there is a need for boosting cellular transmissions. And so, you know, kind of stay tuned, but expect some more great things from us this year to just continue to add to your toolbox to be able to offer solutions for all of your customers, you know, that you might not have had before.
Michael?
Yes.
I've got a few questions.
Fire away. I'm going to go to my thank you slide.
Okay,
so
great.
I am ready for questions.
Okay, so I did have a statement here from someone saying that Industry Canada regrouped all blocks to auction them to carriers in order to promote competition, which we all like. So that was just a statement. Questions are, there's two questions that I have. One is, I'm going to combine, the question is there a license required? And then a second question is, any implications if no approval from the carrier that you are sending uplink to? So Zach is going to also answer that.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Go ahead.
So, you know, to that point, our products do not require a carrier approval. Because they're not carrier specific, there's no carrier approval required. You know, some of the nice features we've built into our system to keep the carriers happy are things like auto shutdown for the interference. So if we do cause interference to the tower, the units will shut down, as well as, you know, like I spoke on earlier, the attenuation to be able to turn that uplink down so that you don't run the risk of causing interference. And to date, our products have not required any carrier approval. We have not had any carriers come in and disapprove of a unit being used. We have had an occasional interference issue where when the unit was initially powered up, the uplink may have been too hot, and one of the signal finders or somebody came out, and it was the solution was very easy. It was turn the system off, adjust the uplink, and when it got turned back on, no more interference, carrier happy. So, you know, it's crucial that we're monitoring and making sure that we're not interfering with the towers. But as long as that's not happening, we have not had any problems with the carriers. They understand the need for this just as much. Did you have anything else to add to that, Zach?
No, Mike, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all a matter of you know, really proper installation more than anything. But I guess really, you know, to avoid the problem in the first place, what can you know, some of the people online here understand or get training on so that they don't turn up the unit with too much
Sure.
you know, interference?
Sure. So just to touch on something real quick in regards to training, you know, if anybody's interested on the call here, we do offer a certified installer program where we go over some of the nuances, the installation techniques, and so on and so forth. And those can be coordinated through Alliance, through SOC. I can handle those here. It's just a WebEx over the internet, so it's at no cost to anybody. So if anybody's interested in going through that process, you can reach out to SOC and he can let me know, and I can coordinate that. But as far as, you know, when you do an install, our recommendation is turning the uplink down initially, turning it halfway down, 3/4 of the way down. And it's a very basic test to see if your uplink is strong enough. You know, dial it down 3/4 of the way, system's powered up. Basically make a phone call from a desk phone to a cell phone in the building. If you've got a clear phone call, your uplink's sufficient. So it's a very easy test to make sure your uplink is working properly, but you can start with it dialed all the way down. You know, do that simple test. Still the phone call is not clear. Turn it up a couple dB. Test it again. If that call is clear, you're good to go. So it's a very basic test you can perform with the system.
Okay, thanks. There was another question. What is the best procedure to determine what technology and band a cell phone needs for a booster?
So in the 2G, 3G, so if the first question I always ask is, what do you want to accomplish? Are you looking to just make sure that when you make a phone call, it's clear, you're able to connect, it doesn't drop? If that's the case, you're only interested in a 2G, 3G, and those aren't carrier specific, so you don't need to worry about that. Now, if the customer says, no, you know what, I want my 4G data, I want my higher data speed, then it does depends on the carrier they're using and the frequencies they're using, and we can help with that. We have resources that can help with that. Most of Canada right now is still using the AWS for their 4G, and so we have in the States, T-Mobile uses AWS, so we have a 4G T. It's a T version of our systems. As we get into the LTE, again, we have resources that help us identify that, but it only comes into play if they're looking to amplify the 4G data. It doesn't have any bearing on if they just want phone calls or 3G data.
Okay, thanks. A couple more.
I actually have I apologize, I actually have a chart. There's a website, Canadian Spectrum Policy Research.org, Canadian Spectrum Policy Research.org, that has broken down which carrier in which province are using which bands, either the low 700 or the high 700 bands. So if anybody on the call or the person who asked that question is interested, check out that website. It's under auction megahertz. It's under the auction results, and it breaks down. If the user has a Rogers phone and they're in New Brunswick, they're using the lower end of the 4G. If they're a TELUS customer in Alberta, they're using the higher end of it. So the resources are out there, and we're happy to help anybody when that comes up as well.
Okay, thanks. Next question. I have missed the beginning of the webinar, but do you have a mobile booster that can work on a 4-well, or the antenna will be too near and cause regeneration?
I don't quite know the answer. I don't quite understand the question. I think if the question is, if you are really close to a tower or in a situation where the signal is really strong, the system will detect that and go into an auto shutdown until you get back away from that tower. So if the question is, if you are using a mobile device but you're in an environment where the signal is too strong, the booster will recognize that and turn off so it doesn't interfere with the tower.
Okay, great. Another question was, for the 45 dB vehicle boosters, is there any automatic uplink gain control, or is there a unit that allows manual adjustment for mobile concerns?
Currently, no, not on our mobile. Side note, we can offer, so I spoke on it earlier, in the U.S. we have new FCC requirements. The U.S. FCC product does have dials and attenuation and automatic gain control. So if there is a viable concern, it's available. The downside is the strength is not as strong, and it's a 1-watt system versus a 3-watt. But it is available. It's actually a 50 dB gain, max gain, attenuable all the way down to 30 dB. So in an environment like that, you could use that one, and it's got the dials, and so you can adjust it for different sizes. Just like I said, the downside is at the 1-watt versus a 3-watt, so it doesn't work as far away from the carrier's towers as the 3-watt does. But there is a dial version available for the mobile if that's needed.
Okay, and one last question, I think. Any plans to provide an IP gateway for upload, download over the internet?
Not currently. You know, we try to eliminate, you know, the need for any kind of backhaul and things of that nature. You know, our remote monitoring device will have an internet connection, and it will go over the internet, but it's not actually doing any kind of signal enhancement or boosting in that manner. It's still all just reliant on you know, the signal outside coming into the booster and then being pushed back out through the inside units. So yeah, currently there are no plans for that type of application from us.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Michael. So one person did want to know what was that web address again, and
Sure.
I said that I will send it out actually after the webinar.
I'll send you the full link, Lisa.
Okay, great.
So you can go right to that page. I'll make sure we get that to you.
Perfect, thank you. So again, everybody, thank you for attending, and thank you, Michael, for the great presentation. And like I said, I have recorded this webinar, so I will send everyone out a link. So for the person who missed the beginning, they can watch it again if they want to. And it's going to be online afterwards. So please keep an eye out for the next webinar we're offering. We try to do one a couple of months. There is one coming up on May 28th, our second in a series on DAS. So if you want to check that one out, you can go onto our website. There's a registration link there.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending, and Lisa and Sak, I appreciate the opportunity. And you know, again, we're available at any time for any questions. We do offer tech support too to those still on the call. So if you're working on a job, or if you want to really ask some technical questions, we're available for that as well. So
that's perfect. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay, great. Everybody have a nice day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.